do.
No, you
yes,
don't.
we do. So you tell me.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not having that. I pressed the Israeli.
We know how many brigades.
Hang on.
We know how many brigades we've gotten rid of. We know how many brigades
Hang on. I'm going to respond to you. I did put this.
We know how many brigades.
I put this to an Israeli government spokesman. I asked him, how many Hamas have you killed? And he gave me this figure. And I said, how many civilians have you killed? And he had no idea. I said, well, then how can you be so precise about how many terrorists you've killed? You can't. If you've got no idea how many civilians you've killed, why should I believe a word about the numbers of Hamas?
Because we know how many brigades they have, because we have that intelligence. We know how many brigades.
So just to be clear, you know exactly how many terrorists you've killed, but you have no idea how many civilians.
We estimate, absolutely, we estimate that there's about 14,000 terrorists, which we've gotten rid of. We know how many are left. There's 4 brigades, and that's why we're in Rafah.
And how many civilians have you killed?
The UN, again, Piers, in the middle of the Second World War, I don't think you could have pushed Churchill.
You're doing it as well.
Ask him,
sorry,
Fleur. What am I doing?
You're doing the same thing the government spokesman did. You know exactly how many terrorists you've killed, but you've no idea how many civilians.
We don't know exactly.
How convenient.
We don't know exactly.
How convenient. That Israel knows exactly how many terrorists you've killed, but you've no idea how many innocent women and children.
Do you believe the UN numbers?
Huh?
Do you believe the UN numbers?
I just find it staggering that you'll all come on and say to me, we know we've killed 14,126 Hamas, but we've no idea how many civilians.
Because we know what the army that we're dealing with is. We know what the terrorist army
No, I'm sorry, it's nonsense to say you can count one and not the other.
Absolutely not. It's nonsense to even ask the question. I don't know who in the middle of a war starts counting here.
You're counting.
The people that they've killed.
You're counting.
No, we know how many are left.
Sorry, you're counting, but you're only counting one side.
Piers, you seem to be a little obsessed with this.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with how many civilians are being killed.
All right, let's say we take the so-called Gaza Health Ministry's numbers, the corrected version. Do you remember what that is now?
That was the number of people they could actually put a name to, right?
The corrected
they could put a name to.
So we went.
And you think that's the total number of civilians killed?
The last time I was on your show, you had Barghouti saying that there was 40, 50, 60,000 dead. Let's just add numbers on, because why not? Everybody will believe you anyway. And then we had the corrected version of the numbers, which went down to about 22, 24,000.
They were the names of people. They were the ones they could put a name to. They don't know how many people are lying in rubble still. They've no idea. People have been killed.
We know how many.
People have been killed in gigantic numbers, week in, week out. You know that, and I know that. I've interviewed doctors. I've interviewed doctors in hospitals saying 500 people have been brought in every single day. But what staggers me, Fleur, what staggers me is that you, like the government spokesman I interviewed, you are certain you know exactly how many terrorists you're killing, but you've no idea how many civilians. Let me bring you Wajah. You don't know that. That's not been established as fact.
There is an ongoing investigation.
Sorry, that's not.
Now,
sorry.
But all I know is
again to correct you, Fleur. That has not.
You don't know what happened either.
No, nor do you. So you accept you don't.
We are at the moment investigating.
Sorry, you just accepted you don't.
We know that it was a kilometre away from where we.
You just said you didn't know what happened either. In other words, nor do you.
No, we are doing an investigation.
Right, it's not concluded. So how can you say these things are facts?
And then.
The only fact,
Piers can ask them why did Netanyahu apologize?
If I may finish, Fleur, if I may finish, the only fact is that 45 innocent people in the refugee camps were killed at the same time as apparently 2 Hamas terrorists. I don't call that a very good percentage, do you?
No, but it wasn't a strategy, and it is not.
But when you bomb a refugee camp, that is a strategy. When you bomb a refugee camp, it is a strategy.
We did not bomb a refugee camp. We bombed 2
who are in a refugee camp.
They were a kilometre away from the humanitarian
zone. They were
zone.
in a refugee camp.
They were a kilometre away from the humanitarian zone.
In a refugee camp.
Where we moved people in order to put them.
You moved them there, and then you killed them.
Hamas keeps them in harm's way. When babies were baked in ovens on October 7th, that was a strategy. When Israel tries to weed out the terrorists, and there are unfortunately casualties, it's not a strategy. That is not what we aim to do.
Those casualties are beheaded babies in Rafah.
That really?
Yes,
that bomb
really.
dropped in Rafah tent.
I saw a beheaded baby
and
that
babies
night.
were beheaded.
It was horrific.
That's what happened in Rafah.
Really?
And you know why they went to Rafah, Piers?
So, hang on,
Fleur,
hang on. Fleur, just to be clear, are you denying that there were any video footage of a baby beheaded?
I have not seen anything.
Really?
And I know that the Israeli army would never do anything like that.
No, sorry, the baby's head was blown off.
Oh, okay. Listen, when there's
killed
a bomb...
36,000 Palestinians.
Oh, well, that's what you say. Apparently, you know the numbers better than the UN and
the fire
the
that
army
raged through that refugee camp did that damage to that baby.
Was absolutely, and it was tragic.
But it's going to happen again and again if you bomb people in a refugee camp.
Well, we weren't aiming to bomb people in a refugee camp.
But you are going to kill them if you keep dropping bombs in a refugee camp, aren't you? You're going to kill civilians.
We took almost 1 million people and put them in a humanitarian zone.
And how many have you left?
That's why we did.
How many have you left?
Which army in the world is actually warning ahead of time where we're going to be attacking in order to put people out of harm's way that its own authority, its own government puts in harm's way? Nobody's doing that.
Where are they going to run to?
And there are unfortunately casualties. It's not a strategy. That is not what we aim to do.
Those casualties are beheaded babies in Rafah.
That really?
Yes, that bomb
really.
dropped in Rafah tent.
I saw a beheaded baby
and babies were beheaded.
It was horrific.
That's what happened in Rafah.
Really?
And you know why they went to Rafah, Piers?
So, hang on,
Fleur,
hang on. Fleur, just to be clear, are you denying that there were any video footage of a baby beheaded?
I have not seen anything.
Really?
And I know that the Israeli army would never do anything like that.
No, sorry, the baby's head was blown off.
Oh, okay. Listen, when there's
killed
a bomb...
36,000 Palestinians.
Oh, well, that's what you say. Apparently, you know the numbers better than the UN and
the fire that
army
raged through that refugee camp did that damage to that baby.
Was absolutely, and it was tragic.
But it's going to happen again and again if you bomb people in a refugee camp.
Well, we weren't aiming to bomb people in a refugee camp.
But you are going to kill them if you keep dropping bombs in a refugee camp, aren't you? You're going to kill civilians.
We took almost 1 million people and put them in a humanitarian zone.
And how many have you left?
That's why we did.
How many have you left?
Which army in the world is actually warning ahead of time where we're going to be attacking in order to put people out of harm's way that its own authority, its own government puts in harm's way? Nobody's doing that.
Where are they going to run to? Over a minute. I'm sorry, I have to say something.
Where would they run to?
Where are they going to run to when... Just let me finish.
Maybe somebody should demand Egypt to help out.
I have listened to you. Just give me 10 seconds. The Israeli government has bombed Gaza. There's over 1.5 million people displaced. They moved to Rafah for safety. What did Israel do? Cross Biden's red line, the greatest ally, United States, and bombed Rafah. These people, as Piers were saying, were in a safe space. They were in a safe zone, in a refugee camp, and now we have charred bodies and beheaded babies, and Benjamin Netanyahu says, I don't care. No ceasefire. I'm going to continue bombing Rafah. And now you have openly admitted they should go to Egypt. Now, if you want to send them to Egypt, which I know you do because you just said it, that is ethnic cleansing. That is ethnic cleansing. And that is a genocide.
No, why is
that would be a genocide.
Okay, let me ask you this.
We left the Palestinian leadership to their own devices. And look what happens.
Let me ask you this.
Look what happens.
Fleur, please stop talking if I'm asking a question. My question is this. My question is this. If there's no occupation, how is it that at the start of this war, Israel was able to turn off a lot of the water into Gaza, a lot of the food into Gaza, a lot of the energy into Gaza? If you're not an occupying country, how are you able to do that to another country?
A blockade is not an occupation.
What is it?
A blockade is not an occupation.
What is it?
Legally, a blockade is not.
What is it?
Well, first of all, there was trade going on between Gaza and Israel before October 7th. We gave out 20,000 work permits. People were working all across.
Why are Palestinians not entitled to the same rights as Israelis?
They have their own state.
They don't have the rights of Israelis. Why not?
Because they're not Israelis.
Okay. Well, that's pretty conclusive.
Thank you.
They're not Israelis.
Okay.
They left in
Sometimes,
2005.
you know what?
Look,
sometimes it's good to shine a light because you get the right answer.
No, let me tell you.